It's her fault.
Well, first I want to thank Kippy and the Nevada Magazine staff for organizing such a fun and informative event. So thank you. And thank you for the presenters too. You all presented something that we can all learn from. And it reminds us all that we all have different visions, we all have different ways of doing things. And so we can all learn something from each other, so that's great. Well, the first announcement is I have this little 4x6 postcard and one more back there. It's for a book signing that I am doing, book signing and slideshow for the recently published hiking guidebook called 50 of the Best Strolls, 50 of the Best Strolls, Walks, and Hikes Around Reno, published by University of Nevada Press this past February. And I did photography for it. The author was Mike White. This was his 31st guidebook that he authored. So he has a really straightforward writing style that we can all relate to. But he and I will be giving a slideshow and a book signing afterwards at Action Camera, the new store that had opened up on South Virginia Street. Those of you familiar, it's just south of where Linwood Mall Way intersects South Virginia and north of New Road. So it's in that block there. But anyway, I'll put this back there. There's one more of these postcards back there. And that ties into the second announcement in that Mike and I are working on a sequel to this book about Carson City. And after we are finished leaving here today, I am going to go as part of this book project for Carson City. I'm going to go to the Moffett Open Space area in East Carson City off of Fairview Drive, north of 5th Street. To photograph the sunset. We'll be looking across Eagle Valley, across Carson City, photographing the sunset behind it. And anyone who wants to join me is welcome to. I'll be leaving right after we're done here.
Thank you, Mark. Great book, too.
The date on this, tomorrow night. Thank you. Tomorrow night, Thursday, November 9th. And it starts at 7 p.m.
No, Wednesday.
No, tomorrow's Wednesday.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's Wednesday.
Thank you. I'm a day ahead.
It's Thursday?
It's Thursday the 9th. And if you already have a book, bring it with you. Both of us will be happy to sign it.
I have pressure to be done by sunset. Somebody could just nail the lights for me back there. I'm not going to run back. Thank you so much. Again, I'm going to make this pretty quick, you guys, but you're more than welcome to contact me anytime you have questions about what we're looking for Nevada Magazine, and I will try to help you. I can't always tell you definitively what we're looking for, but hopefully these slides will give you a few tips that might help you better your chances of getting published in the magazine. My biggest advice for you is to think like a tourist, and not like the photographer tourists, but like the regular tourists. Nevada Magazine is a state-run magazine. I don't know how many people know that, but we are a state organization. We're state employees. We are a division of, well, we're part of the Division of Tourism, and so our goal is to bring people to the state, or get the people who are in the state out to outlying areas and to explore more. So I've had a lot of people ask me, why aren't you publishing any of the street photography and things like that? I love it. I think it's beautiful, but it's not going to bring tourists to the state. So a lot of what we're publishing is what you would want to think would bring somebody here with their family to spend money in the state to go see. So a lot of people who are visiting are not professional photographers, and while it's nice to show them a beautiful sunset of a spot, and that could get somebody's attention, that's not always what's going to sell that location to a typical tourist. They want to know, what are the amenities? I mean, okay, so you're not going to get a pretty picture of a porta potty out in some of these places. They want to know, is there ample parking? Is there food available? Is there water? Are there bathrooms? Things like that. Are there picnic tables? Is there a place to sit and eat? Is there shopping nearby? So a lot of times the stories that we're writing, while we're telling about the pretty areas to see, we also want to make sure and give them that kind of information. So when you look at these next two photos, which gives you more information as a visiting tourist? And I'm using my own photos here, so I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. Okay. So Sag Harbor, so many of us know it. We've shot these scenes before. I'm sure people have shot this scene 100 times. 100 people in this room, probably. So, but can you tell anything from it? Can you tell? Are there lifeguards? Is there parking? Are there picnic areas? Anything like that? Right, you can tell. I mean, it's a pretty area, yeah, but when you look at something like this, now not everybody has a drone, I understand that, but when you look at something like this, you can see that there's a parking area out there, and you can see that there's an amphitheater out there. I'm not sure if you can see the lifeguard standing from a shot like this, but just to give you an idea of looking at things just a little bit differently. We're looking for pretty photos, obviously. We want things that are going to be well composed. We might want some of those Chamber of Commerce photos, I'm just saying, you know. So it all depends on what you're out there doing. If you're really trying to shoot for the magazine and you're really interested in being in the magazine, think like a tourist. That's my best advice. We have a budget, and we're a state magazine, so our budget is not huge. We're a self-sufficient magazine, which means we don't get funding from anybody else. We basically exist on advertising. So my budget is not great for paying for photography. To give you an idea, if we pay for somebody to be on the cover, and we pay for everybody who's in our visions section, which is a 4-page section toward the beginning of the magazine, I have then spent at least 1/3 of my budget for the whole magazine. So the chances of me being able to pay for large, spectacular opening photos is not real great a lot of times. So you'll see that I supplement sometimes with my own photography, or stuff that we can get for free. That said, if you are looking for just the exposure of being published, and you don't really care about the money at this point, please let me know that when you submit your photography. And I know that that's not the case for everybody, and I'm not trying to take any money away from anybody, but if that is an interest of yours, and you really just want the photo credit, it may increase your chances depending on what my budget is looking like for that particular issue. Obviously, I'm not going to put bad photos in the magazine just because they're free. So, I want good photography, but there are a lot of times where people know what I'm up against, and so if that's an interest for you, that might help your chances as well. Photo alerts. Many of you are probably familiar with our photo alerts. If you're not, please email me after this event if you would like to be on our email list. And we will send you an email directly before each issue that tells you what kind of photos we're looking for, what subjects we're going to be covering, and what our deadlines are. So we also publish this information in the Nevada Photographers page. You may have seen it. It's something to watch for. I usually try to pin it during the deadline time so that when you go to the Nevada Photographers Facebook page, you'll see it right at the top. And that will have all the information that you need. These emails are generated by our editorial staff. It's not put together by me. So when you email me to say, oh, do you need specific photos of this, or do you need it this time of year, this time of day? I don't really know, to be quite honest with you, because I'm waiting to see the story. I haven't seen the story yet, so I can't give you anything more specific than what the photo calls usually are. You're more than welcome to contact our editorial staff if you have specific questions about what they're going to be covering. They may or may not know, because the story might be coming from somebody else even. We might not even have it yet. So we can't always give you all the information that we'd like to. The deadlines. The deadlines are pretty firm for photo submissions. Earlier is better. If I get a story early from editorial and I've got a whole bunch of photos for it already, I will start laying it out before the deadline is over. And it's going to have to be a really magnificent photo that comes in at the deadline or late for me to change a story that I've already done. So I'm just saying that if you have photos in your archives that you can submit for a photo call, earlier is better. So, I do respond to all photo submissions, and somebody snagged me, I can't remember who it was now, I'm sorry, I've talked to so many people today. Somebody snagged me to ask me if I had gotten their photos that they submitted this week. I did. I just have been so busy planning for this that I have not responded to any photo submission emails yet. But they're all flagged in my email, so I will be responding this week to let you know. I just sent a confirmation email to thank you for sending them in so you know I got them. And if you don't get that confirmation from me, please follow up in case I missed something or, I mean, I screw up a lot. So I might have screwed up and missed it. Please respond to the photo alerts. If you send me a random photo in between issues and say, I was just out at Fort Churchill and I took this really cool photo, and here you go. I'm sorry, Lee. It's a really cool photo.
And she wasn't going to throw anybody in the except for you.
But, you know, and I do get a lot of people, especially people who are new to the magazine or new to the Nevada Photographers Group, who will say, here's a link to all my photos. That's great, but I don't have the time of your photo, but sometimes I will put fades on them or I will cut things out of them in order to make it the way I think it looks better in the magazine. Usually I'll try and ask you first, but it is entirely possible that I might get in the middle of production and I might forget. So if you do not want your photo altered at all, let me know when you send it, and I'll just make a little note while I'm in the middle of production. There's somebody else who submitted a photo this time, and they said they only want it considered for the cover. And if we're not going to put it on the cover, they don't want it anywhere else. That's fine. That's 100% fine. These are your images, and you have every right to tell me if there's some way you don't want it used. Okay? And really bust the stereotypes. That's a big one. Not that this is such a unique photo, but it's not very often that you see women out with waders doing the casting and doing their fly fishing and stuff like that. So at least most of the photos that we get are of men doing this. And so I just say, you know, bust the stereotypes and do, we have seen so many pictures of bonsai rock. I can't even tell you. It may be the most beautiful picture of bonsai rock you've ever seen in your life, but we've seen it so many times. So shoot it from a different angle. Shoot it from under the water. Shoot it from over bonsai rock. Shoot it from, I don't know. Just go for something different. If you've seen it 100 times, we have probably seen it more. That's all I'm saying. Oh, and then I just want to talk about cropping. When you send in your images, please try not to crop them too tight. Because as you'll see from this image when I submitted it, there's a whole bunch of river left at the bottom and there's a little bit of stuff on the right. And they cropped it in to put it on the cover. So if I were to already crop this image into the fisherwoman and right into the part of the water that's coming up from the fishing line, they wouldn't have been able to use it for the cover. So if you can just give us enough space to be able to work with, it'll work. And hopefully everybody knows what negative space is. It's kind of like the unimportant space around your subject. And we need that kind of stuff for covers, because that's where we put our mastheads. And if a photo is too busy, then we don't have room to put that kind of stuff, or we don't have room to use it for a big, pretty opener. My last tip is to, if you have not already, if you are online, I know Jerry's not going to, but if you're online, join the Nevada Photographers Facebook page, because there's a lot of really good resources out there. Many of them are in the room right now, and it's fun to network and you get to learn a lot. So that's all I got, unless there's questions. Yes?
I want to ask what happens when, you know, like the best picture, we send in 10 pictures. What happens to them? Do you use them other places? Are they?
So the question is, what happens with the photos that you send in that we don't use? Do we use them elsewhere? Sometimes. We do keep them, we keep everything archived, and that way if we ever need to go back and say, oh my gosh, we're doing a feature on this, and so submitted this photo, I can go back to you and say, hey, you know, 2 years ago you submitted this great photo for this, can we use it? We won't ever use it without telling you, but we do go back and use them sometimes.
Well, I was just wondering, you know, if you sold them the stock or what you do with them.
Oh my gosh, no. The question was, do we sell your photos for stock? No.
I hope so.
No.
I hope so.
No, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of lawsuits in that one. No, we would never sell your photos
Okay,
out from
because,
under
you
you
know,
or anything like
those
that.
who sent us, we figured those were our best, you know,
Yes,
and I just wondered what happened to them.
they stay with us and hopefully for use at another time. Now that said, I won't always remember what's been submitted from year to year because I look at a lot of photos every
Oh,
week.
yeah.
So, you know, if you have something that you think is the best, please continue to submit it. Like I said, that one guy has been submitting the same photos. I've been there for, you know, a year and a quarter or so now, and he's sent me the same photos every single time. So, you know, if you think they're great, please send them because maybe something will click with me at one point and I'll go, oh my God, that would be perfect for this. So,
I just wanted to know what happened to them.
yeah, they're sitting archived on our server, Kathy.
Okay.
And do you look through Nevada Photographers' Facebook page for photos for the book?
I do. I will often do a search on, I will admit, I don't look at Instagram. I'm glad Caitlin's not here because I'm not an Instagram person. I do look through Facebook sometimes for the hashtags for NBMag. I look through Nevada Photographers a lot for when we're looking. If I haven't gotten what I feel is the right submission for something and it's just not good for what I want to do, I will often go to the Nevada Photographers group and do a search for that word or that name or something like that. I also very much use Nevada Photographers to choose obviously, the Facebook choice photo, but I'll go back like a year, you know, like for the January, February one, I'll go back to Jan, Feb of last year and say, look what people posted. And use those for the choices for the Facebook group. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask a question, because we mentioned Instagram, we had a speaker here. Just kind of a survey of the folks in this crowd, because I've never gotten any responses off of Instagram. I've gotten tons of stuff off of Facebook, and I was wondering, in this group, how many people use Instagram to promote your business and to sell things?
So how many people here are using Instagram to promote your photos and your business, and are you getting responses?
And then,
Followers, sorry.
okay, so we got, and how about Facebook? Anybody use Facebook?
I use Facebook for myself, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I don't know anybody that's ever benefited from using Instagram.
Well, maybe after Caitlin's presentation, we'll all run out and get on Instagram.
Okay.
Okay, I just want to be clear. Do you prefer photos of Nevada with people in it, interacting, playing, enjoying, recreational, working, those kind of photos over just a landscape photo?
So the question,
A picnic table.
no, you're good. So the question is, do we prefer photos with people in them, interacting with the scenery, or do we prefer just the landscape? In general, I like to have the people in it. It doesn't always work for the layout, because sometimes the story will be talking about hiking, and somebody sends me in a picture of somebody rock climbing, and it doesn't match up with what the story is talking about. So it depends. If the person's doing what I want them to be doing, then yeah, I love it when there's people. In general, yes, we would prefer to have people interacting.
But you send out the information, what you're looking for, and so we can put a person and provide you with that information.
Yes.
You prefer that?
I do prefer it with people, and you know, there are opportunities. If you have questions about details from a photo call that says, you know, do you know what the story's going to be about or something like that, you can feel free to ask. I might know what the story's about, or I might not. I might refer you to our editors because they might know better what's going on, or we might be completely clueless and not have an idea because it's coming from an outside writer and we don't know what it's going to be about. So I would always err on the side of putting people in, if I could.
So let me be clear, you don't want any more pictures of portraits?
I don't want to say we don't want any more photos of Bonsai Rock or Port Churchill, because then it's going to dry up, and the next time we have a story about that, we're going to get nothing.
He's got a bunch on his page.
No, you know what, just, I really want people to not look at somebody else's photo and go, gosh, that's really cool, I could send in that photo. If it's that photo, we've seen that photo. You come up with your own vision is all. Vision is all. Yeah.
How much information do you need to describe the photo of what you took? I mean, you don't want to hype
I
something
don't,
up.
really.
You just want,
Unless there's something that you think I wouldn't be able to figure out on my own by looking at the photo, you don't need to send a description.
thank you.
Yes, and you know, this was my first time going through a Great Nevada Picture Hunt, and I realized there was a little bit of confusion about that too. And a lot of people took a lot of time to describe every single photo that they were submitting, and I really appreciate that. At the initial submission stage for Great Nevada Picture Hunt, it is not necessary to give us the great detail of it. It's great to know where it's taken, just to get an idea, because sometimes people forget and say, oh, this was taken up in Hope Valley. Okay, well, that's California. But, you know, you don't think about it because we're so close, you know. But for the most part, we don't really need a big, long drawn-out
And
explanation.
you don't need the settings and the ISO and all that. Okay.
I do not need all that. I'll ask you if I need it, but yeah, exactly. For the most part, for your initial submissions, not necessary.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Yeah, in the back.
Did you already mention resolution or what you're looking for?
Oh, that's a good question about resolution. I did not talk about that. Send me the biggest you've got. No, I'm just kidding. Again, for the initial submissions, I would really prefer if you could send me, I'm really bad at knowing the pixel dimension. For my own photos that I post them 18 inches wide by 12 inches tall at 72 DPI. Something along that line would be great for an initial submission. I don't need high res right from the start because I don't know if I'm going to use it, and really my email box fills up super fast. But I don't want, I also get some people who send in something so teeny that I can't even see any details in it. So, you know, that's kind of just a judgment call, I guess.
So not more than like 4 or 5 megabytes might work?
Yeah, any 4 or 5 megabytes. Again, it's going to matter. It's going to depend on how much you're compressing your JPEGs or whether you're sending me TIFFs, because some people send TIFFs, and you know, and some people put on stuff on Google Drive, and you know, all that kind of stuff, which is all fine. In the end, it helps me sometimes if I've got the high res from the beginning, because then I don't need to contact you again and try and track you down if you're out trekking in the desert to try and get a high res. But I try very hard to contact people early enough so that it's not a big panic, like, oh my God, I need your image right now, super fast, send it, you know. So in general, smaller to medium is better at the beginning than sending me big, huge images. I hope, did that answer your question? Kind of? Okay.
You said 12 by 18?
That's just me. I
Or
post
8 by 10?
Yeah, anything like that. Anything that'll actually allow us to see some of the details of the photos, you know. There's one submitter who sends me photos that are like 1 inch by 3 inches at 72 DPI. I can't see a damn thing on that. I just can't. I can't tell if it's a good enough photo to even ask for a bigger quality, so, yeah.
You want people in the photos, and how does that work with photo release?